Hello, everybody, and thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Jonah. I'm from Discover, and today we are talking to Jess Catorc. How are you doing today?
I am doing great. I am very excited. I like looking at the chat. People come in early for these workshops, which is really great to see. So hello everyone. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, and I want to call out a couple things for everyone watching. You don't need the reminder, apparently, but hop in the chat. Let us know where you're tuning in from, something you're excited to learn today, how you heard about Jess, how you heard about Discover. I want to call out a couple. We got Cynthia tuning in from Minnesota. That's where I am right now, Cynthia. So hello from the same state. Tuning in from Detroit,
Oh, nice.
from
Love Detroit.
Mississippi, from Seattle, Washington. Thank you all so much for being here today. And we are all super excited to be diving in with Jess. We're going to have a lot of information today. So if things are moving fast or you have to get up away from the computer, don't fret. All of this will be available in a replay. It'll be on the YouTube page, on the Discover event page. It'll also be emailed to you along with the link for the starter pack, which we will talk about a little later. And if you have any questions throughout the presentation, pop them in there. We'll try and answer all the relevant questions as we're going. If we don't get to your question right away, we're not ignoring you. We have set aside time at the end to do a proper Q&A and get to all of those questions. So let's get going. Like I said, we are talking to Jess Catorc, and today we are going to be talking about the 7-step blueprint to transform your idea into a profitable business in only 30 days. Little background on Jess, if you don't know. Jess is an award-winning brand strategist, seasoned public speaker, and interviewer that has contributed to and been featured in publications like Forbes, Entrepreneur Inc., and ABC. Jess, I know you have a lot to share with us today, and I don't want to
Yes.
take up any more time. So, should we dive in?
I am so excited. Yeah, thank you for the great welcome. Also, I totally agree with Pamela in the chat who says, Jonah, I like your light in the background.
Hey,
I
thank you.
specifically told them that before we started. Awesome. Yeah, let's dive right
Yeah.
into it. And what I will say is like there is a lot of content that we're going to be going through today. So please type into the chat. Make sure if you have any tabs open that you close them because this isn't a workshop where we're going to just be talking about like some fluff, some things you could do. Like there's a lot that we're going to unpack today. So, welcome. The official title of today's workshop is the 7-step blueprint to transform your idea into a profitable business in 30 days. Now, what that means really is we're going to be going through the exact steps, the exact systems, but these tips are from the industry's best creators, the most successful entrepreneurs. And we've curated all of this into this workshop so you can implement it because you know, there's a lot of noise out there. Now, I would love to know, type into the chat, what brought you here? Was there something about the topic, the idea that spoke to you? I would really love to know what your why is, why you decided to carve out, you know, an hour, 90 minutes of your day to be here. And if we're meeting for the first time, I mean, Jonah gave a very kind introduction, but I'm Jess Catorc, and I've been working with, Teachable for it's like 5 or 6 years now. I've been working in the creator economy for around like 8 years, and really, there is so much exciting things that are happening right now in this space, and we're going to be going through that. It's not just me saying that; like there's actual data to support what is happening in this industry. So if you join today, really, this is one of the best times to learn about this. Now, if you found yourself on this webinar and you actually don't know why you signed up, you're in the right place. If you have been thinking about starting a business, but maybe you've been feeling a little bit overwhelmed. You're like, I don't really know what steps to take. There's a lot of information out there. And maybe you are ready. You're like, okay, I know exactly what I want to do, but I have been spending hours on YouTube and watching workshops, maybe similar to this one, maybe not similar, but a lot of workshops like this. And you're just like, there's so many things I could do. There's so many strategies. Like, how do I know what to do if I'm just starting out? And, you know, I can see this reflected in the chat, but maybe you are working a 9 to 5. Maybe you want to carve your own path and you just want some help to do that. Please do type it into the chat. Let me know which one you are. And my big promise to you, I don't say that lightly, as I'm going to walk you through in this entire session, the entire 7-step blueprint to turning your idea into a profitable business. We're going to be using actionable actionable strategies from the industry's best entrepreneurs. These are things that are proven. These are strategies that actually work. And then we're going to go through how to take, I put that idea in quotations because, right? If you have an idea that's been kind of sitting there and it's been just kind of building up and you haven't really stepped into it, we're going to talk about how you can take that and turn it into a business. Then I'm going to share with you a very simple but effective formula for how to achieve your revenue goals. A lot of people launch businesses, they want to make an income, but they don't actually think strategically using math of like, okay, well, what do I have to have in place to actually hit that goal? And then I'm going to share 10 product and service ideas that you can just steal today. A lot of them take little to no upfront investment. I'm going to give you an entire marketing plan. I'm going to talk about sales, how to sell your products. And then we're going to also dive into the mindset, overcoming imposter syndrome and fear, procrastination, because really, like, these are all of the pillars that you need to master in order to launch a business. And then, because if you're looking at this and you're like, there's a lot of information, there will be a Q&A at the end so we can really dive into your specific situation and answer your questions. Now, how to make the most out of this session? Please trust me when I say, if you have your phone out, if you have different tabs open, if you can, close them. Because there's a lot of content and we're going to be going through it quickly and I don't want you to miss out. And if anything looks blurry for whatever reason, on the bottom right of this video, there should be a gear icon. Click on it and then select 720p HD. It should make things much more clear. And then if you are enjoying this, if you're taking notes, use the hashtag Creator Starter Pack. You can tag at Teachable too, and send us a selfie of where you're at or of your notes. And we're going to be giving away some fun swag and just like some gifts to people who do that. Now, before we dive into everything, I think it's important to just talk about the why. Like, why should you create an online business? Why should you join the creator economy? And if you're new to this term, I just want to set the foundations of what do I mean by creator and what do I mean by creator economy? Now, this is from the Signal Fire blog, but the definition in a nutshell is just, it's a class of businesses built by 50 million people. And these are content creators. They're community builders, videographers, coaches, social media influencers, but not all. And really are taking their passions, they're taking their skill sets, their expertise, and monetizing it. Now, why is it interesting now? Like, why is it, if we had this conversation 2 years ago, it still would have been relevant. But what is it about now that makes this so interesting? Now, I was doing some research last year, at the end of last year, and Google does this thing where every year they have a thing called the year in search. And it's basically just what people searched for the most. It's very interesting. Highly recommend looking at some of the results. But something stood out, which is that you can see here, the world globally searched for how to start a business more than how to get a job in 2021. And I'd love to know, type into the chat, is that surprising to you? If you think of 2021, there was a lot of things that happened. 2020, a lot of things happened. But what's interesting is that how to start a business was searched for more than anything else. But it's not just like people looking to start a business and because people want to do something different. There's also a lot of interest and buzz within other industries on the creator economy. Now, for example, this is Marina McGilko. She's a creator that we're working with, and she received $1.7 million in funding in exchange for a cut of her future earnings. Now, this is interesting because this is like acknowledgement from other industries, other investors, other places that they see that the creator economy, people wanting to start businesses and create things, this isn't, people in their bedroom just kind of making silly videos or starting a blog. There's actually a demand and there's actually a lot of buzz that is happening behind it. But it's not just the money, right? Like, let's be honest, and I would love to know in the chat if this is something that you feel. But I think it would be very naive for us to think that, oh, everyone was searching for how to start a business because they want more money or they just want to leave their 9-to-5. If you really dig into the why, I think, this is just my opinion, people want purpose. It's not necessarily that the job is something that they want to leave. It's that people want your ideas to be valued. You want to feel appreciated. You want to feel like you can take risks and do things that you're really passionate about and actually be able to develop that more. So, it's like people talk about like, oh, people just want to start a business to make money. It's so much more than that. And that's why this is such an important time that you're here to really learn how to do this in a sustainable way. So, the why. What is the power behind, specifically an online business? There's a few different benefits. The first one is scale. So, for today, we're going to be talking a lot around digital products. And when you create a digital product, this could include an online course, a membership, it could include videos or PDFs or whatever. This means that you create something virtually once, but then you can sell the same thing over and over again. Now, what that means is if you have something like that in your business model, if you still want to do client work or coaching or freelancing, and type into the chat if there's any freelancers or coaches here, this allows you to say yes to the things that you want to do, not have to do. We've all been there if you've been a coach or a freelancer where you say yes to projects because you financially have to, but it's not necessarily something that sparks joy. Benefit number 2 is you get to lean into your passions. A lot of people think if they have this idea for a business and they're like, I think that's a little bit too specific. I don't think anyone's going to bite. And I can tell, I've worked at Teachable and I've seen how specific products can be. There's a course called Copper Deficiency in Goats. There's like thousands of people in it. It really is surprising. So don't doubt yourself on what actually you could do. And then, of course, you can create a new and additional income stream. You can diversify what you're doing because you're not relying on one job or one source of income. And then I actually saw this in the chat. Harun says a reason to live and leave a legacy. That's kind of what I have for number 4, which is that when you start a business, when you become a creator, this becomes your body of work, right? This is your way to leave an impact on this earth, whatever that is for you. A lot of people will want to start businesses because they experienced something in their past, they found a solution and they want to help other people avoid that mistake. Or they discovered a passion that really lights them up and they want to share that with more people. And, if you think about like, that is a pretty meaningful thing to be able to offer to other people. And it's more than just, creating a business to be an entrepreneur. So I would love to know, please type into the chat, which of these resonated with you the most? What is your why? And, if you've started or tried to start a business, there's a lot of steps, potentially. It can be complicated. If you are someone that watches a lot of YouTube or webinars, it can become overwhelming because it's like information overload. And I have to call something out. Hopefully I don't get in trouble for saying this, but there's a lot of people offering like big promises, especially to people who are just starting out, but they don't give any tips. They don't help. They say, you have to pay me thousands of dollars and then I'll show you how to do it. And I have seen many people, close friends, creators who have put themselves in financially stressful situations when they were just starting out, when they didn't need to. And when you do that, it's very hard to make good decisions on your business because you have like $4,000 on your credit card that you have to pay off. So, I just want to call that out. There are really great products there that cost more money, but it's important that when you're just starting out, you choose something that allows you to grow and not feel stressed. So today, I'm going to walk you through everything, and I want to be just very transparent and upfront. So I'm going to give you actionable tips. Everything that you need to implement. There is no fluff. For those of you that want to go further, if you're loving the tips that our creators are sharing in this workshop, what I'm sharing, I have a special announcement of our membership. It's super accessible. But either way, you will walk away, whether you end up joining the membership or not, with things that you can implement today. So I just like to be upfront. There's no bait and switch. You're going to love this workshop. And then if you want to do more, you can always join us. If not, keep us posted with what you implement. Okay, so here it is. This is the 7-step Creator Starter Pack Blueprint. And maybe take a screenshot of this because we'll be coming back, but really this is the things that you want to follow. So step 1, we need to talk about your mindset. Imposter syndrome, procrastination, self-sabotage. Then we're going to talk about choosing a profitable business topic. Then we go into your income goals, and we're going to do an exercise together. We can do this in the chat, where using a very simple formula, we see what you need to have in place to hit your goals. Then we talk about building an audience of potential customers. 5, we're going to go through digital product and service ideas that you can steal. When I say steal, I mean you can just take them. And then we'll go into selling, how to sell without feeling salesy or pushy, and then the actual launch. So once you have your product, how do you actually sell that and get customers in the door? So my question for you, type into the chat, who here, and type 1, 2, or 3, who here has an idea for a business for less than a month? Like you just had this, you're here, you happen to see the workshop and you're like, okay, perfect timing. Type 2, if you've had an idea for less than 5 months. And then type 3, if you had an idea for over a year. Type into the chat, let me know. And I can see here, interesting, we've got 3s and 1s. Okay, this is great. Wow, a lot of 3s. Now, I would be lying if I said that I didn't expect that answer. And my follow-up question here is, who here has tried to learn how to start a business at least at one point in their life? So you've had this idea, but have you ever tried to do it? Type that into the chat, whether it's yes or no. Now, the reason why I asked that, it's not just, a fun question, but it's that the hypothesis that I had, and we can see this reflected in the chat, which is that most people have wanted to start a business for a while. Most people have thought of this idea for a while. And I also don't think that it's the reason why people don't succeed, or the reason that people don't start or follow through, is because they don't have the information. I think that is part of it, especially if you don't really know what steps to take. But there's one aspect that I do think that we need to acknowledge, which is that your mindset can usually hold you back more than the lack of information. So, and please let me know if you experience or have experienced any of these things, but like procrastination. You want to do something. It doesn't make any sense because in your mind, you're like, this is exactly what I want to be able to do. But for some reason, I just keep pushing it off. Or you doubt yourself. You don't feel like you're good enough. Or maybe there's some type of fear. And what I would say is, when it comes to overcoming fear specifically, the number one thing that everyone should do, and if you have like a piece of paper and a pen, you can do this. Ambiguity is the perfect environment for anxiety, doubt, and fear. And by the way, procrastination is a form of fear. So if you feel like, I think I'm just lazy, I procrastinate. Usually when we procrastinate, it's because we're afraid of something. Is it the fear of failure? Maybe. Is it the fear of success? A lot of people don't really consider that. But what I want you to do though is, when you think of like the things that you have on your to-do list for starting your business, when you think of the things that you want to do when you put yourself out there, we usually have this big idea of what that is. And that's overwhelming. Like if your goal is to start a business, that's so vague that's just, it feels like there's so much that you have to do. And so what I want you to do is to write down and get very specific on what you are afraid of. Even if it feels silly, you're like, I'm afraid that I'm going to have a typo in my email and someone's going to call me out. But we need to get specific, because if we don't, that is what festers even more fear and more self-doubt, when really we could have tackled it from the beginning. Now, the next fear or mindset blocker that a lot of people will have is, I don't feel like I'm enough of an expert. And let me know. And by the way, thank you for your comments. I can see them here. I can see procrastination is a big one. But let me know if you felt like maybe I'm not at the level that I need to be, or I don't know as much as I should in order to build a business around this topic. And what I would say is that no matter what your business, your offer, your product is, you should be offering some type of an outcome or transformation, right? And we'll talk about that in a later step when we talk about sales. But the value in you being a million steps ahead of your audience is kind of one that we just made up, or we just assume is important. If you think of your favorite creators or people, usually they're a few steps ahead of you because they're more relatable. They can understand your stumbling points. They know what your pain points are. So don't discredit the fact that even if you are a few steps ahead, that you can't still be helpful. Also, you do not need to pretend like you know everything. If anything, like there's people that position themselves as the expert, but there's also people that position themselves as like the active learner, where you are learning something and you're sharing that with your audience. You don't need to pretend, and you shouldn't pretend. And then also is when it comes to not feeling like you're enough. I mean, we did a whole docu series on this with creators like Seth Godin and uh, my mind is going blank here, Kim Coles and a ton of people. And what you will find is that even the top creators, the people that you would consider experts, still have that type of self doubt. Next one is okay, I want to launch a business, but it's already been done. Type in the chat if that's what something you've thought of where you're like, dang it, it was on Shark Tank, or dang it, I've seen someone do the exact same thing. And what I want to say is that if something exists, if it's successful, take it as a good sign. It means that there is a demand for it. Someone went out, did the hard work, and they've proven that people are interested. It's like Airbnb. When they first started, people were like, that doesn't exist. I don't know if that's going to work. But now that it's actually out there, there's so many more competitors coming into the space. And then also, there's so many different people with experiences and ways of delivering information that two people, and I want you to think there's probably two creators that you follow that teach or talk about similar things, but you resonate with them for different reasons. And then the last thing is with procrastination, when you get clear and specific on what your fear is, it doesn't mean that it's just going to go away. It's important to acknowledge that you do not get brownie points for doing everything yourself. And when it comes to procrastination, what will usually help is adding some type of accountability. If you think of like all the things that you expect you to do by yourself, it's probably a lot. And I think it's a lot to ask of yourself to do everything in a silo, especially with people working more remote now. So whether you are finding a way to surround yourself with other like-minded, motivated people, you connect with people online or maybe in person, but find or create a space of people who are on the same path as you. That way, when you're feeling discouraged, there's someone else that can help you and vice versa. This is a testimonial actually from Chris Ducker, who had a really great community. And you can see that, someone said it feels like my virtual corridor, walking down the coffee machine and bouncing off ideas with like-minded people. And no matter how you create your type of community or that network, do try to make it a priority. And then the last thing that I will say on this, and this is like a big step because it really is the foundations, is that when we are thinking of our fears, our doubts, the focus is inwards, right? Like when you think of what you're afraid of, it's what will people think of me? How will people perceive my idea? What if I fail? It's all inwards. And what I would challenge you to do is to shift the lens on the people you're serving. Like I want you to think of a video, a product, a person that you came across that completely changed your life. Now, I want you to imagine that that thing didn't exist because that person was afraid and they didn't put it out there. You can see the implications of you not having that transformational content. And so for you, really start to shift on like, who am I wanting to help? Who am I serving? And putting that on them so that when you are feeling self-doubt or you're afraid, you're like, oh, this isn't about me. This is like, I have to get this out there because there's people that are waiting for it. All right. So this was a lot for the first step, but let's just recap here. First, get clear and specific on what you're afraid of and your doubt. If you're afraid of all the things that you have to do, list them out line by line and start to see like this task, what am I afraid of? This task, what am I afraid of? Because again, ambiguity creates anxiety and doubt and fear. 2, no one feels like an expert. We have to accept that, but also take that as ammunition to be like, I don't have to be an expert. I can be honest and transparent and be an active learner. Just because it's been done, it doesn't mean that it's been done by you and how you would do it. Find some type of community or accountability and then focus on the people you're serving. So let me know if there's like, if this resonates with you, if you've been feeling some of those things, or if this is helpful, type that into the chat. And as you're doing that, we're going to go on to step 2, which is coming up with a profitable business topic. Now, I'm curious when it comes to, coming up with a topic, let me know, 1, if you are excited, but you're not sure where to start. 2, maybe you have an idea, but you just need help refining and tweaking it. Or 3, you have so many ideas. And sometimes on one week it's one, the next week it's the other. And you need to figure out, okay, what is going to be the actual most profitable? Which one has an actual demand? And you would be surprised. This is an example. These are some of our creators and featured teachers in the membership of Creator Starter Pack. But there's so many topics that people can be successful with. I shared with you the copper deficiency in goats course. Whether it's a course or a video or anything, do not doubt that you can't be successful with it. But there's a few myths that we have to address. Oh, and I can see here in the chat we've got 3. Okay, good mix of 2s and 3s. Thank you. Myth number 1 is that you feel like you have to build a business around your primary thing. So, if you're good at web design, well, I guess my business has to be a web design agency. Or if I'm good at baking, I guess I should do a bakery. That's a myth that people have. And you really want to start to dive into what are some of the skills that you have? What are the things that you're passionate about, which we'll talk about in a second. Myth number 2 is I can't do this idea. It's already been done, which we address in the first step. Just because it's been done, it doesn't mean that you can't do it as well and with your own flair. Myth number 3 is I need to know exactly what my business is going to be before I start. And this is a form of procrastination. It kind of dabbles or dances into that perfectionism, which is that you feel like you need to know exactly what you're doing before you start. And the secret to being able to come up with a profitable business idea is to start with what are you passionate about? And I really like if you're sitting here and you're like, that's so obvious. Like that's, of course that's what you should start with. Bear with me because this is something that seems obvious, but I guarantee you most people do not do. So start by looking at what are the areas that you're passionate about, but then also digging a bit deeper of like, what do people come to you for advice on? What do people seem to trust your knowledge or your expertise around? And, if you have a niche already, if you're a coach or you have some type of expertise, what are some of the common pain points or struggles that people have that you can help solve? And then most importantly, what could you talk about all day, every day? Do not, promise me, do not. If there's one thing that you take away from this, do not start a business because you can see that there's a demand, you can see that there's a financial opportunity, but you haven't really stopped to think of, can I do this all the time? Because just like, a job and you feel burnt out, if you're not passionate about what you're doing, it's not going to be sustainable. Now, this is a tip from Terry Rice. He is one of our featured teachers in the Creator Starter Pack, and he's a really great tip around social listening. So once you've decided, what you're passionate about, I am not saying go in and then just create that business because there's a balance. We know what you're interested in, but now we need to actually do our research to see where is the demand and what is that sweet spot. So first of all, you can start looking through popular articles, blogs, and not necessarily the topics, but looking at the comments and seeing what are some of the commonly asked questions that people have. How are people responding to this type of topic? I highly recommend, looking at Quora or Reddit and looking for what people are posting. These are forums where it's just, everyday people that are sharing their questions or they're sharing their wins. And with Reddit specifically, you can get very specific on the topic. There's so many groups from, baking to the list goes on, but you can get very specific of where your target audience would be. But then what you want to do when you're researching this, Terry recommends that you also search and filter it by both popular content and the most recent and look at the trends. Because you don't want to look at an article that was posted in 2019, let's say, January 2019. You don't want to start there and then you see that there's all these questions and then you take that as your research and you implement it. Because a lot has happened in 2020, 2021. So you want to find that balance between both the most popular topics and the most recent to see if there's any trends that emerge. And then from there, what you want to identify is the problem, what the solution could be, and the service. So this is a snapshot from his workshop that he has like a whole template that you can fill out. But examples, for this case here are, for one, people are struggling with the problem is like, I'm unclear on how to target Facebook or an Instagram audience. if you're a consultant. The solution here is, okay, well, what about campaign tactics? What are you going to do? How are you going to measure it? And then the service is someone being able to help with measuring that. So this is a very specific niche, but what I want you to do is take a piece of paper, or you can do it on your computer, and fill out, when you're going through this research and you're seeing what people are saying, what are the problems that are coming up, the pain points, the questions? Using your knowledge, what would the solution be? Like, what would they actually need to do or know to be able to solve it? And then what service could you offer to help people get to that? And then another thing too is, when it comes to coming up with an idea, it's not just audience demand, because if you speak to everyone, you're speaking to no one. And Chris Ducker, he's also a creator in the Creator Starter Pack, and he teaches you to come up with a very specific avatar. And again, maybe you've heard this before, maybe you haven't, but you don't want to go in and say, my audience are people from 20 to 45 who want to learn how to play tennis, for example. You want to get specific, because this is going to help you come up with ideas of what your product could be, your messaging. It also keeps you consistent. So if you know exactly who you are speaking to, as if it's one specific person, you're going to see that the terms you use, the phrases, it's going to be consistent, and that's going to build loyalty and engagement with that audience. And also, people are going to be interested in your products and services, because it's like you're thinking for them. You're like 2 steps ahead, and they're like, how did you know that this is exactly what I needed? And type into the chat if this idea of being specific seems daunting, because you're like, I just need some sales. So if I say that I'm speaking to X, Y, and Z, then people are just going to leave because they're like, oh, it's not for me. Now, yes, of course, people are going to come to your page and they're going to think that this isn't for them. But when you're specific, the people that you are speaking to are going to feel like this is especially for me. An example, if you have let's say a business where you do interior decorating. I help people from 20 to 50 of all ages to decorate their homes so it feels beautiful. Okay. Or I am an interior decorator that specializes in dorm rooms for students, rent friendly, and ways to amplify and just revamp your space in a way that doesn't break the bank and helps you, that you can take it off when you move out. Can you see the difference? It's, yes, not everyone's going to maybe resonate with that, but the people you're speaking to are going to be like, oh, this is exactly me. This is exactly what I need. So when you're doing this, and actually, if you can type into the chat with your avatars, a couple questions to answer. I mean, he has a whole workbook on this, but where does your ideal customer work? What is their income level? Income level also indicates buying power. So when you're thinking of pricing, what is a realistic thing that I could set? What are their hopes, their fears, their struggles? And then diving a bit deeper, what about their favorite media? Are they TV watchers? Are they just scrollers on Reddit? Where do they hang out, online or offline? What are their hobbies? You really start to paint this like 360 view of your potential customer. And so when you're using references, you can see like knowing this will help you input it into your content, into your copy. And please do not skip this step. I think a lot of people think that, oh, I know who my audience is. I don't need to worry about that. But it might be fine now, but when you're sitting there and you have to come up with a new idea, or you have to write a sales page, it's going to be like that, staring at the blank cursor. And you're like, what do I say? How do I say it? And if you find that you're there or you've been there, it's likely because the person or the people you were speaking to was just too vague. So it was hard to start. Okay. Let me know if that made sense. Please type into the chat if you've done a customer avatar before, or maybe you haven't, if this was new. But let's go into setting and hitting income goals. So if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. And there is no like secret sauce that's going to guarantee you to make, $1 million. And anyone that says that, please do not listen to that. But there is a formula that successful creators use in order to predict what they're going to be able to hit. Take a screenshot of this, please. We'll have another slide with it, but really just write this down or take a picture. So in order to know how you're going to hit your revenue goal, and actually type into the chat what it is that you would like to make, let's say in a month or in the first year. Now, you need to know how many people you need to have in your following. And in this case, we were talking about an email list, and I'll share more in a second. The conversion rate, which is the percentage of people that turn into paying customers, and then the price of your product or service. Now, the reason why I say email list is your following and not social media is because, I mean, social media is great, but there's just so many unpredictable elements as far as like how you reach them, how many people see your posts. Email is much more predictable. So, okay, seeing the chat here, I see that we have $8,000 per month, $5,000. Oh, this is amazing. Okay, great. So using that, working backwards. So in this example, I'm going to say $1,000. Now, I'm going to imagine that I have a product that is priced at $200. But in this case, it's a course. For you, it might be more than that because it's a service, might be less. Now, 2% is the magic number that I want you to write down. 2% is an industry average. It's actually considered good as far as a conversion rate. So if that is the case, if you have a $200 product, you have a 2% conversion rate, and you want to make $1,000, you would need 250 people in your list. Now, if you've opened up a new tab and you're scrolling through Facebook or Instagram, I want you to come back and really look at this. I think a lot of people feel like they need to have 1 million people in their following in order to make some type of an income, and that is just not the case. And then you can see that it's a numbers game. 2% of people will end up purchasing and converting. Of that, you've got the rest, 98% that haven't. You can sell to them again. You can keep growing your list. But those are the numbers that you want to start to implement. If you don't, you will go in and sell a product and then wonder why no one bought. And it might just be because you didn't have the numbers or you didn't do that planning. And let me know if this helps, if it feels more doable. And definitely keep sharing your income goals as well. But now let's talk about building your audience. So now that you know, let's say hypothetically, that I need to have 250 people in my list, how do I find them? So what's interesting is that every creator that is successful is growing their list and their audience in the same way. Now, again, social media is great. And I can see here in the chat, Harren says followers are usually not buyers. Yes. I mean, well, yes and no. It depends. But followers in the sense that, if you're focused on Instagram, I mean, who here has actually tried to use Instagram for a business or to launch something? Let me know if you ever posted something and one day you get some traction. Maybe it's like a few likes, and then the next day no one responds. It's just the algorithm is just so unpredictable, and you also have no direct way of contacting them. But in order to build your list, you need to deliver free value. Now, Gillian Perkins, another teacher in the Creator Starter Pack, has some really great workshops on this. But, maybe you've heard of, okay, I know I need to offer something that's free, that's valuable. But now, especially with so many people coming into this space, we need to offer something that stands out. And she has a really, really interesting approach to this. But, rather than just being like, sign up for my newsletter or get a checklist, which, is great, this is your opportunity to get creative on what you can offer. So, for example, an online event guide, a video series, and we call this, whatever that thing is that you're giving away for free, an opt-in. Some people will use it as a lead magnet. And the goal of this thing that you're creating is that you should help your target audience get to some type of outcome, some type of win, regardless of if they purchase from you or not. It might seem counterintuitive. You might be thinking, why would I spend all this time creating something for free and then just giving it away? I mean, it's the exact same reason that I said this at the beginning. People that say that you have to pay them thousands of dollars without actually showing you if they could help you, we can't expect someone to just hand over money if they don't even know if you're the person for them, if you can actually help them. So it is worth taking the time to do this right. Bonus tip. You can go in and you can share it in different communities or forums, but I would actually recommend looking at ways that you can promote this opt-in or lead magnet to someone who already has an audience. Now, this could be with creators on like their YouTube channels, on podcasts, doing blogs and like guest posting. And the reason why I suggest this, and I've seen this firsthand, is that when someone brings you into their audience, they've done the heavy lifting on building trust with their audience, giving them value. And if they are saying, I like this person, I trust them, you should listen to them, you've already removed a few objections that people might have, which is, I don't know if I can trust this person, or who is this person? I've never heard of them before. So really start to think of who are some creators or platforms that you could reach out to be able to deliver your content and to get in front of their audience. The next question you probably have is, how? How do I reach out to people? How do I do that? Especially if I don't have a big following. I'm not an influencer. Why would someone listen to me? And I have a lot of experience doing this and pitching people when, I had nothing else to give but content and my insights. The first thing when you are pitching is to make it personal. Do your research on the type of content that they cover, the questions that they get in their audience, the comments, and see, okay, what could I insert that hasn't been covered that their audience would want? And address that in your email or how you reach out to them. Do not approach a pitch with you asking to be on their show. Even though technically that is what you are doing, you need to think of, okay, well, what's in it for them? So, when you're looking at, let's say, a podcast, look if there's any comments where people are like, this was such a great episode, but I was kind of struggling with this thing that this person said. And then you can use that, take a screenshot and say, hey, I noticed people were struggling with how to get their sourdough to rise. That's actually my area of expertise. I'm a baker, and I would love to be able to, address that on your show. And then also, whether it's email, yes, that works, but you can also get creative. I have done many video pitches and it has worked consistently. You can also, this isn't feasible for like every time or every one, but I've also sent people a Starbucks gift card for $5 and then I send them an email. The reason this works is because they'll see a Starbucks gift card from a random person's name, and then they'll see that email from me and be like, oh, what is this? And I usually would position it like, hey, I wanted to reach out, send the pitch, and then say, P.S., normally I would have loved to meet you in person for a virtual coffee. Either way, though, you'll find the next best thing in your inbox. Even if I don't hear from you, really appreciate all that you do. Now Heron says, Jess, the problem is if you don't have an audience, no other large audience gives you a chance. I think that is a very common thought and idea. However, I can say firsthand that is not the case. And you would actually be surprised. I hope this is encouraging. People who have a large audience, yes, of course, they're looking for people who have a big audience to bring listeners. But also, if you have an established audience, you're also looking for how to stay relevant. You're looking for how can I bring in some interesting conversation to my show to keep people around. And also, if you find a way to stand out creatively, you'd be surprised. I mean, as an example, I did a video pitch for Pat Flynn. He has a podcast called Smart Passive Income. I had hardly any following. I was very new into like the online space. I obviously had a background and experience. And I did a video pitch and I basically shared all of the things that his podcast had helped me achieve. I did that and it established credibility. And then at the end, I said, hey, I just wanted to say I reached out. I would love to be able to share some of my tips with your audience. Either way, no problem. Appreciate all you do. And I ended up getting like 2,000, 3,000 email lists, email addresses to my opt-in from that. So I promise you, if you are creative, if you do your research and you find a way to really position your pitch in a way that stands out and offers value, you'd be very surprised. Okay, so let's go into digital product and service ideas. Now, these are just some high-level things that I want you to kind of think through, because if you think of like the creator business model, there's a few ways that you can generate money. You can do ads, sponsorships, affiliates. Affiliates are people who are promoting your product or service, and then you give them a revenue share for the people that they send. Digital products and services. Now, here it is. The ads and sponsorships. Ads, you don't necessarily need to have an audience unless it's like someone promoting on your show. But sponsorship, you usually need to have enough traffic for someone to give you money for that. And this is why we're going to focus on digital products and services. So some ideas, and I actually want you to type in the chat if there's things that you've tried or things that you would love to implement. One is virtual classes. So like that is like what we're doing right now, doing a workshop for free It's a lot of fun, but it's a way to deliver value without people actually, having to pay. And then from there, you can have premium workshops that you charge for. Online courses, you can do freelancing, you can offer coaching, you can create an ebook or in-depth guide. I want you to think through not just the things that you know, but how you approach doing the things that you know. So, are there systems or processes or frameworks that you use to make your life easier that other people would probably pay money to be able to use? You can offer and sell checklists. You can have audio content, newsletters or premium content that people pay for on a subscription basis. Examples of that are like Patreon, there's Substack. YouTube also has like a paid membership community. And you can also just create an online community that you charge money for. Many people do that. It doesn't always have to have content. Sometimes people just pay for the network. With the online community, it doesn't necessarily need to have a lot of people, because if you have a small community, but a very like specific high level people in a certain space, people would pay money for that. So if you're looking at this list and you're like, okay, I think I would want to try a course or a PDF. How would I do that? Some helpful tools. Looking to maybe take a screenshot of this. Canva, the Adobe Suite. Those are great for actually creating graphics. Canva is more beginner friendly. If you want to record your screen, so you're doing some type of workshop, Loom. Love Loom. It records your screen within your browser, or you can look at ScreenFlow. If you're, obviously Teachable, I'm biased here, but if you want to sell like coaching products or services or courses, you can use WordPress for your website, circle.so if you want to have some type of community. And then also, depending on where you're at, if you want to outsource and get support for creating things, definitely check out Fiverr and Upwork. Now let's talk about selling here. Please type into the chat, let me know who here loves selling. Who here wakes up every morning and is like, I cannot wait to pitch my products and services to people? Let me know. Type into the chat. And I'm going to just take a guess here. Most people do not like to sell. Most people do not want to feel like they are salesy. And in fact, like most of these successful creators do not like to sell either, or at least that idea. Oh, interesting, Kathleen, you love selling. Kathleen, maybe you can share some of your tips, because a lot of people feel awkward. So that's amazing that is not your thing. But we do need to talk about selling, because while I'm going to share with you like a launch framework in the next step, if you don't get comfortable with the idea that you're going to have to sell and talk about your products, this is what causes people to like fumble, to get kind of awkward, to not really sell their products. And then people feel like if they're not sure about their product, then why should they want to buy it? And so we want to tackle that. Now, Kendrick Shope, she is the sales expert. I mean, her program, Authentic Selling University, has been around for like 10 years. It's like the gold standard. And within our course, she talks about this, which is that selling is simply, we take the emotion out, the exchange of money for a product or service. That's it. I think of HelloFresh is like a meal cooking subscription that I have access to, that I've purchased. I love to cook, but I was always wasting money on food that would go bad in the fridge, and I didn't really know what recipes to follow. HelloFresh literally put an advertisement on Reddit. I clicked on it, I purchased it, and it is the best thing ever. And the reason why I share that story is not because they've sponsored this webinar, obviously, is that when you are selling something that is actually helpful to your audience, they want to hear about it. It doesn't feel forced, because they're like, this is exactly what I need. So when you're selling your products and services, you are doing a disservice to your audience if you don't tell them about it. But it doesn't mean that you have to be salesy. It does not mean that you have to be like a car salesman or seem kind of, like cheesy. Not at all. This should feel authentic. And some tips that Kendrick has, I mean, there's a whole class in the Creative Starter Pack, but you need to know, you'll start to see all the things that we've shared today are connected. You need to know who you're selling to. So going back, and you can watch the replay of this, to creating a customer avatar and that research that you've done. You also need to know, what is the transformation or the outcome that someone is going to invest in? People, no matter how good of an idea you have, no matter what your product is, people are never buying a product, they are buying an outcome, who they'll be at the end of it. And what you want to do when you're looking at this is there's a couple of pillars that we need to identify. So one, who are you serving? Go back to your avatar, get very specific. Two, what are their pain points? What is your customer struggling with? How would they describe that in their own words? Three is features. So, and Kendrick says this all the time, people don't buy features. They're not buying the product. They're not buying what you're selling. But what you need to understand is your product or what you're offering, how will that create a transformation for your customers? And then you go into the benefits. So what is the result or the transformation that it offers? And how are their lives different after purchasing or going through your product or service? And then from there, creating a power statement. And this is from, again, Authentic Selling University. She has a part of her workshops in the Creator Starter Pack. But you can take a screenshot of this and get clear. Say, I work with, who do you work? And maybe you want to do that in the chat. You can type that into the chat now. The only problem though is, and then insert the pain point that they have. And then you start to get clarity on together, I, we, will, and then this is what you're offering. And then the feature, so the product, what is it? It's my course, my workshop, my coaching services is the answer to this. So you can, and then you fill in that transformation or outcome. There's a lot in there, so I'm going to just take 2 seconds, take a screenshot of this. But really, you cannot sell something if you don't know all of these things. And really, the reason is, if you're talking to someone about your product and they're like, well, what does it do? Why should I care? How will it help me? You really need to start to think through not just, I'm selling this product, it's this price. It's really, what is the outcome? What is the transformation? And understanding your audience. And then another tip too is, we talked about growing your list, offering things that are of value for free. When you implement this, you've also started to build a level of credibility and trust with your audience because you're proven to people that I'm the right person to help you get to this outcome. And just keep reminding yourself that this is a marathon, not a sprint. Okay, we are ready to go into the very last step. Before we do, we're at 52 minutes right now. Type in the chat. Let me know if you are excited, how you're doing. I need some energy here to make sure that you're still with me so we can go into this. And, oh, I love this. Pamela says, after this webinar, I'm going to fill it out. I need to go back to my avatar and really fill this out properly. Yes, that makes me very, very happy. Please watch the replay of this and do take time to go through this because it will make a huge difference. Okay, so we're going into the launch. Now, when I say launch, just again, there's a lot of jargon in this. I want to make sure we're on the same page, is that it is the open and closed enrollment period or when the cart is open for you to sell a product or service. And when it comes to selling anything, a digital product, a service, your own clothing line, whatever it is, really what I will say is the best way to do this is to launch it in 2 phases over 30 days. Now, notice how I said you're not just selling it from day one. That's not what we're doing. And there's a very specific reason to this. So, and this is a tip that we teach, at Teachable, but when you're going into a launch, phase 1 is the buzz builder. This happens for 1 to 2 weeks, maybe a little bit more. And then phase 2 is, the red carpet release. And this is for 8 days. And what I will say, if you're wondering, where did this analogy come from? Think of a movie release or a Netflix series release. When a movie is about to go out, and in the movie is, an analogy for your product, there is a trailer. The actors are doing a press tour. There's teasers of the content. You're doing the exact same thing. People are people. We need to do something similar when we launch a product or service. And when you do this, so when you're building buzz, you're doing this for 1 to 2 weeks. And this is where you're offering free value. It's all connected. So you're taking the list building strategies, you're doing your free events, you're going into different forums and answering questions, and you're building an audience of people who are getting value from you and they're starting to know, like, and trust you. We need to do this just like a movie. We're not going to go see a movie if we don't even know why we should be excited about it. And then this is also in this phase where you can reach out to podcasts, YouTube creators, really starting to promote your free offering on those platforms. The reason why this is key is that at the end of this phase, you are going to have a percentage of people that have been going through the free content. They're going to be the right people to purchase your products. And second, you've established trust and credibility. So you've already shown people I can help them get to some type of win. So when you're selling a product, they're like, oh, of course. Of course this makes sense. I've already if this is what the free content is like, I can only imagine what the paid is like too. And then we get into the red carpet reveal. This is like the movie premiere. This is when everything just starts to launch. And this is the exciting part because, when we went through the formula, you don't need to have thousands and thousands of people to start earning money with your business. And in fact, I would actually say keep things small. And what you want to do is once you finish the last day of your free content, once you get into this red carpet phase, you want to send 8 emails for 8 days. I know. You're sitting here. If you were drinking water, you spit it out. You're like, 8 emails, just that is so much. There's no way I'm going to do that. The reason why this works is that if you think of any time you wanted to buy something, you want to know as much information as you can before you purchase. But the way that these emails are crafted, you're not just spamming them. These are thoughtfully crafted emails that deliver value and are interesting. So what you will do is on day 1, you send an email, and this I'm using an example as a course, but you can fill in the blank, whether it's a PDF, you're launching your service, a program, a community. Day 1, you send an email with a teaser. So you can say just so you know, tomorrow I'm launching something big. I'm so excited. If you've loved this free content, I know you're going to love this. Stay tuned. Day 2 is where you reveal your cards, right? You say, okay, I have to let you know now, it's official. I've officially launched this product, service, course. Here's how you can buy it, and here's what's inside. When you're talking about what's inside, though, make sure that you're focused on the outcomes people will receive and not just listing out all the different features. Day 3, this is where you say, look, come join me. I'm so excited. The cart has officially opened. Day 4, have an email where you're answering FAQs. Is this course or product right for me? Is there a payment plan? How long will it take me? Day 5, you can include some type of surprise bonus as an added incentive. A bonus could also be a special price if you want. Day 6, send an email thanking everyone who's purchased your product or service. Include screenshots if you have testimonials or social proof, and then remind people that your product is still available, but the cart is closing soon. Day 7, present a logical argument. So, you can be like, look, this product is not for everyone. I'm not going to pretend that it is, but it is for you if, and then fill in the blanks for why that is. And then finally, day 8, this is where you're really adding the scarcity. You're saying look, I am closing the cart. This is the last chance to buy. Join now. And you want to make sure that if you're closing the cart, you actually, it's not there's only 5 copies of this digital product. But you do want to have a timeline because, just like we as creators procrastinate, your customers will procrastinate too if they feel like they can buy at any point. So you're not forcing people to purchase, but you're saying, I need you to make a decision either way by this date. And this is just an overview of what this can look like. So you can see in the top where we've got little pages, that is the free offerings, the mini series, the events that you run for free, and then you go into the launch after. And this is a testimonial for someone who followed this plan, because we teach this a lot, on the Teachable side, and they ended up following this launch phase. They grew their list to over 1,400 people. They had a sign up of over 200 people. I am not saying those results are typical. That is an incredibly high conversion rate if you think of 2% as an industry average. But what I am saying is that, if you follow this, I've not held anything back. I didn't leave one critical piece to this. You will get results. All right, my friends, we did it. Type into the chat because this is a lot. I did say to you, this isn't, fluff. We're going to go through a lot of content. Let me know in the chat how you are doing, if you're feeling excited. And let's just recap, because at the beginning I said, I promise to you, I'm going to give you everything that you need. And what we covered today is, we went through that 7-step blueprint. I shared actionable strategies from some of the creator economy's top experts and entrepreneurs. We talked about the formula for setting your income goals. We went through different products and services you can offer, the launch plan. Let me know. Did I keep my promise? If so, what was your biggest takeaway? And also, I can see some really great questions here, which we'll save time for in just a second. But yeah, and also, Jonah, how are you doing? I'd love to see what some of the people are saying to you as far as takeaways, insights. Maybe you're
Yeah, we are cruising. And for everyone watching, Jess is just rolling through. So I am collecting your questions and comments, and we'll get to them in the Q&A. We have some awesome questions, but Jess, you are so good at this. I didn't want to interrupt your flow,
oh,
and you're kicking through it. But people have a lot of questions. They're learning a lot, especially when it comes to avatars and trying to lock down. I think we often think of niche in such a like influencer way, so it's really helpful to focus on it as it actually aids who you're selling to and solving problems for. Um,
100%.
but while we just keep going, and then
Yeah.
I've been tagging all these questions. We got a lot to cover in the Q&A, so I'm super stoked.
Awesome. Yeah, and I can see here. Oh, great. I can see in the comments. There's also a little bit of a delay with your comments, so it takes us a second. All right, taking a step back, getting crystal clear on who you're serving. Okay. I hope that the biggest takeaway that you get from this is that you can do this, right? I have worked with so many creators. It's not as daunting as you think it might be, because you don't need to hit your end goal tomorrow. You just need to take a step forward. And, as far as like where we go from here, there's really two paths that you can take. And I'm going to say this straight out, both of them will work. I'm not going to pretend like there's only one option that you can go from here. There's two things you can do. Path one, you watch the replay. You're like, this was helpful. I know what I need to do. Maybe you were a little bit more advanced, like you've kind of already done some of this stuff, and this was a great reminder. If that's you, virtual high five, please, tag us on Instagram, even tag at Discover, and let us know what you implement. Second path is maybe you're feeling like this was helpful, but also a little bit overwhelming, because you're like, what was step 2 again? What was step 3? And let me know in the chat if that's how you're feeling. If this is like something that you're new to, know that that's normal. That is totally fine. It doesn't mean that everyone is miles ahead and you're like trying to catch up. When we're learning new information, it's like it takes us a second to process. And path number 2 is that you can learn how to do this, but in more depth. So you have step-by-step plans and guidance, a community of like-minded people for accountability. But you do this without breaking the bank. I will always be an advocate for this for people who are starting out. You should not be spending $5,000-$10,000 on things if you're not in a position to do so and you're just starting out. So what if I told you, which I'm sure you already guessed this, but there is a way, and this is for the first time ever, to be able to learn from the industry's best. So if you're resonating with the tips from Terry and Kendrick and Chris Ducker, you're like, I want to dive in deeper to that. And you had access to all of this in one place, from premium training to pieces of their flagship courses. And you could join a community of aspiring creators who are like-minded, who are also wanting accountability and are going on that same path. And you could have access to over $5,000 worth of training for a fraction of the price. It's a little bit of a rhetorical question, because if this is resonating with you, I hope you're nodding your head and you're like, yes, I'm interested. And if that's you, I'm really excited to introduce for the first time ever the Creator Starter Pack powered by Teachable. This is really like if you think of the content and training that you need to start your business, you're going to be unlocking so many great things. And while it's powered by Teachable, this really is by creators for creators. Now, really, I guess this will be covering the slides. It's okay. Everything you're getting with the Creator Starter Pack is that access to the insights and knowledge and courses and training from some of the top entrepreneurs. So the things that I shared in this webinar, that was taken from their programs that are inside of the Creator Starter Pack. And like a lot of their courses, they sell for hundreds, thousands of dollars, and being able to get access to either pieces or the whole thing all in one place. And so what you're going to be getting today is there's over 50 videos inside of the Creator Starter Pack. There's over 13 premium workshops and content from these creators. There's over 30 actionable PDFs. There's templates, there's checklists. So the exercises that I shared with you today, there's actual workbooks that you can go in and fill out. There's a private members only community. There's access to special discounts, and just some really great bonuses. And the best part is that you have access to all future membership content. And some of the things inside are, if you're familiar with Chris Ducker, please type into the chat. He's an incredible entrepreneur. He's just made waves in the space. And he's actually including his entire Upreneur Academy to master personal branding. He sells it for $497 inside the Creator Starter Pack. He separated this, it's like a full program, but in 3 different phases of build, market, and monetize. So when you're building, how do you establish yourself? How do you get clear on your customer avatar? Then how do you market your products? And then how do you monetize it? Plus, there's just so many resources and workbooks inside of that. And I just want to say something. When I say like it's a value of $497, I'm not just like pretending. Like if on his website, when he was selling this, it was $497. So I showed a screenshot just so you can see that it's not an arbitrary number. That is the actual value. And some just incredible testimonials from Chris as a teacher, as a leader, and the content inside of Upreneur that you would get access to. And then we've got selling. So Catorc Shope, the go-to expert when it comes to sales. I mean, she's had her program for over 10 years, and she has curated workshops from her premium course that sells for, I think it's like over $1,200 that you're getting access to. A workshop, and it's a workshop as in like multiple videos, workbooks, templates on how to create and write a high converting sales page, how to master the sales mindset. And again, amazing testimonials from people who've been able to, here, Emily Thompson, who's gone through a program and learned from her, made over $40,000 after one of her sessions when she was working with Kendrick. So you get access to that insight in those workshops. But there's so much more, from creating awesome slideshows, how to find time to build your business. Kate Putnam has an incredible program called Clarity Week that she sells for $100 you're getting access to the whole thing. SEO blog blueprint with Lauren McManus. Elise Dharma has a amazing workshop on the 5 types of short videos that sell. Terry Rice, as you can see, we talked about social listening. He has a whole class in there, as well as templates that you can use. Gillian Perkins, an amazing creator. She has 2 workshops. One is how to grow your email list using those strategies and how to really create a high value event. There's templates and there's swipe copies in there. And then also how to create webinars that convert. It's over $500 value. And I'm not going to read all of these testimonials, but like each of these creators was handpicked for a reason. The list goes on what they've done with people and help them achieve. And then there's curated training from Khaled Hamadeh for Facebook marketing. I don't know if you're looking for Facebook ads, but I know personally it's kind of a confusing thing. And so if you are wanting to do that, or you at least want to learn how to do that, he has over $200. I mean, it's more than that of content for if you're just getting started. And I had to screenshot this. If anyone knows Trustpilot, it is very hard to get any good reviews on Trustpilot. And he's just got like incredible, like an excellent rating on there too for his course. And then on top of that, you also get access to a members only community. This is creators, aspiring entrepreneurs that are wanting to be a part of this so you can network, connect, and get that motivation. So the question you might be having is, okay, this seems cool. I'm excited. Glad you did this. How do I get access to this? If you are joining us today, you are about to be a part of our founding members of the Creator Starter Pack. And because of that, we're giving you a special deal. And this is the first time that we've been able to put, these are like premium courses or workshops into one space. Now, the total value is over $5,000. You can see like there's so many courses and trainings in there. The regular retail price for the membership is $588 a year. But as a founding member, as being someone who joined from day one and is excited to go through this, if you join today at the lowest possible price, you're going to lock this in for life. So when the price goes up, you've locked that in for $199 for the year. Now, there's also a 30-day money-back guarantee. So if you're sitting here and you're like, this is really exciting, I want to do this, but like, what if I don't need this? What if I change my mind? No questions asked. 30 days, go through it, actually join the community, share who you are, your wins. And if for whatever reason you change your mind, you can let us know and we'll give you a full refund. And again, really just to reiterate what you're getting access to, this isn't just a bunch of videos. Like we really, like when we were working with these creators to create the Creator Starter Pack, we made it clear that we didn't want to just have like a bunch of videos, but also templates, checklists, workbooks, things that you can actually implement and also would make the process easier or quicker for you. So you're getting, master classes, the swipe copies, PDFs, and then of course that implementation within the community. So again, everything you're getting today, the over 50 videos, 13 premium workshops, and we're consistently adding in new content and workshops. And if you are a founding member, by the way, if there is a course or a creator or a topic where you're like, can you see if they'd be interested in this? I would love to learn from them. You can share that so we can really make this and add new features that you are most interested in. So you're getting the private members community, all of those actionable PDFs, templates, swipe copies, the membership and exclusive bonuses and discounts, all for $199 for the year, 30 days to cancel. If you change your mind, you'll get your money back. So if you're ready to join us, the link will be in the chat, maybe pinned, or I think we can put the thing on the video in the top left. There we go. It's a very easy, it's creatorstarterpack.com. I really am excited. Like I'll be in the community answering your questions too. And I can tell you, you're going to be surprised when you see Youpreneur Academy. It's the full thing that he was selling for $500. And it's that alone is you're getting more than your money's worth, plus all these other workshops. So type in the chat, let us know if you've joined. The special discount, I think we have a cap for 100, the first 100 people. So definitely keep an eye on that. But yeah, thank you for spending your Wednesday with us. Type in the chat if you've joined us. And let's go into your questions. It's really fun.
Heck yeah. Jess, thank you so much right off the bat. That I've done some events with some of these creators, and already their value is insane. But you so succinctly put all of this into one actionable event that walks through all of that. I wish I had seen this years ago.
That's the thing that a
It's
lot of people
yeah.
said too, when we reached out to them. Most people are like, oh my gosh, 100%, I'd love to do this. But also to be able to get access for less than $200 for an entire year, if you think of what that works out to a month is, less than a gym membership probably, and
Yeah.
way less than a gym membership.
Yeah.
And you're getting all these different courses. If you were to buy them separately, hundreds or thousands of dollars. I'm excited. I'm really excited.
Yeah. And just to reiterate, the link is in the chat. It's also in the description and will be emailed to you along with the replay of this. So it's a good opportunity to take advantage of that. And I can just again speak one event with Terry Rice blew my mind. So having all of those resources available will really help. And I just wanted to flag I'm curious, David, you came here saying you are tired of trading time for money. I think that's such a wonderful summary of where so many people are at. So hop in the chat. Let us know if this made you feel like you can get more on track for changing that. But why don't we hop into some questions, because we already got some. And everyone, please throw your questions in. We have a little more time here with Jess to get to
I'm a
that.
talker, so
Yeah, love it.
your questions, as you know. Actually, there's a really great one here from Krista. My biggest question is whether or not this is right for me. I want to create physical products and sell in person, but also have passive revenue streams through digital content. Krista, I'm gonna be straight out with you. If you're looking to sell physical products, I would say that it's probably, if it's just physical products, it's probably not going to be as helpful. Well, it will be helpful in the sense that you have your sales page, ads, marketing. You'll learn how to kind of build your personal brand. But there's a lot of the things that we talk about is digital products. So I can see here that you do want to diversify with digital content. So if that is you, then yes, 100% is the right fit. But there isn't a course on how to sell clothing, for example. So if that's what you're looking for, probably isn't the right fit. But you also have 30 days. So, you can join, you can kind of browse through all the different courses. And I think there will be stuff there for you, because at the end of the day, sales, marketing, ads, branding, it's whether you're selling a movie, whether you're selling, a teapot, a course, it's all the same. But yeah, you got 30 days, no pressure.
Love it. And I thought this was a great question coming in from Haran or Heron. Sorry if I pronounced that wrong. But also maybe we can use this as a catalyst for people who are in a position where they are still trying to niche down on their audience. but was asking what would the niche be for people who want to create a course. So selling to, like, kind of like we're doing today, selling to people who want to create a course. That seems very broad. How do you how do you know when you're at a place where you're ready to like start marketing, to start building a product in that niching process?
So this is what is great. So Heron, if you want to watch the replay, or you can really dive into Terry Rice's course in the Create Starter Pack, as well as when we talk about launching and growing your list, the best way to test out if things are too niche is actually to start by doing like a pocket product, right? Do something small. Susie Whitford, I think, coined that term, pocket product. But it's like, rather than spending a month or 2 weeks creating this full course, what you can do is to be like, I'm going to test out the messaging with a PDF or a free Q&A or video series and just see who bites. And if you find that you're struggling, and actually there's one thing I'm going to add. If you find that you're struggling to get people to opt into something for free, very telling, because it means that it's going to be hard for people to pay money for it. But also, you need to look into how you're communicating the value of the course. So even if it's very niche, you need to know like what your target audience is thinking. An example is if you have a course on how to organize your home, and on your sales page, even in like your free workshop, you say like, is your life a hot mess? Are you all over the place? Well, my product's going to help you. Uh, the end product is the same. The features, the benefits, what we talked about with Kendrick, that's all the same. But your target audience sees themselves very differently. I would be your target audience. People would say like, I'm like a little bit messy, but my life's not all over the place. So, when you're kind of doing this research on if there's a demand for my niche, also just pay attention and you'll uncover that with the social listening that Terry talks about. How are people describing their problems? Because sometimes that's the missing piece. It's not the niche, it's just how you're communicating the value.
That's so valuable. And then we're just going to plow through because we got a bunch of questions here. But feel free, if we didn't quite answer your question, pop back in the chat. Let us know what we missed. But Anthony was asking, this was a statement, but I think it's still a problem. I've experienced it in my own business. I know a lot of clients I've worked for have, which you have a product, maybe you've done the social research, but you're still not quite grasping how to get to your target audience. And maybe you can clarify a little the difference between like social media and email. What is really the goal, and then how do you market to those people?
100%. Yeah. So that's like the $1 million question, right? You're like, okay, I've done my research. I know where my audience hangs out. How do I actually like get them to see my thing, to opt in, to join my community? So I'm going to just list a couple of different ideas and strategies. So one, you can really do the groundwork of joining online groups, communities, going on Quora and Reddit and answering questions, and really starting to establish yourself as this, I'm going to say like thought leader. Doesn't mean you're an expert, but someone who can help with the problem that they're having. But I'm going to say that also is, if you think of how much time and effort that takes, I do not think that should be the only thing that you're doing, which is why if you go back to the replay, or if you look at the replay, is to start to tap into existing audiences where that creator, that platform, that person has already established trust and credibility with them. And you don't need to be reaching out to CNN. I'm not saying that, or like Fox News, or I don't know why I'm saying on these news outlets, but like, you don't need to go to like a huge platform, even like big podcasts. It's like people who have 1,000 people in their audience. That's more than zero. People who have 500, and you can start to do some type of collaboration there. That's important because you're getting access to more people in a shorter amount of time. So I would just like balance that with like going into the groups where your audience hangs out, but also trying to find places where, when you're doing the avatar work, what are some of the shows that your audience listens to, and start to make a list of that and reaching out to them.
Yeah. And I know there was a bit of a debate about bigger audiences or bigger creators being willing to feature you, or even publications and stuff. I've worked with multiple creators who just reached out to Forbes, Rolling Stone, all of these crazy things, and not once, many times over years.
Oh,
but they got it. They got it, and over time they built that credibility to really get it. So it is amazing to think, you don't have to pay for advertising, you don't have to do all of this stuff.
No,
It's
like
really, yeah.
I would say, Anthony, actually, I got on a morning show on ABC. That one, the morning show. I emailed the morning show. It was in Portland. I said I did my pitch of, "Hey, I noticed you haven't talked about these topics. This is a really timely topic that I can cover." I sent an email. No social following. I said, "I'm going to be in Portland in these dates." I wasn't. I was going to wait until they responded, and then I'd buy a ticket. And they
That's fine.
responded, and that's how I got. I like most of the press that I've ever received, I've pitched myself and no one knows who I am. So it's like you don't need to have an audience to do that. You just really need to think of what is the value I can offer. And also just putting yourself out there. Most people don't because they don't think they have an audience. But yeah, I highly recommend. You're going to be pleasantly surprised, I think.
Well, and has that gotten easier for you too? Like as
The
a
pitching?
habit? Yeah. Does it get easier the more you do it?
Oh, 100%. Well, the thing is, like, the first few times you feel like you've like hacked the, you're like, what? Like, people respond? And then you start to
Yeah,
see that it's like you created this idea, this like landscape that did not exist. It's
right,
people are hungry for content. People, even with big audiences, they need interesting people. They don't need just a bunch of influencers. So if you
right.
can do that, that's like a win-win.
Love it. Gabriella had a question here. Just move it on. That was specific to, I think, the email list, but I think was worth, or the email launch strategy. But on day one, when you're emailing your whole email base, can you already have your product live? The specific question, day one, for example, if people go to your site, like, is the reveal there already, or how do you structure around that? Like, when do you actually reveal it to the public?
Okay, this is a good question. So, recommendation. You can always experiment, you can always do things differently. Um, I wouldn't have the product on your website all the time unless it is a very low price product that, the marketing term is like a tripwire where someone can buy for like $7 or $20,
Mm,
where it's like an impulse buy. It's like a way for them to get into your ecosystem. Also, people have purchased from you once, they're more likely to purchase from you again. Those types of things I think are great to have on a website that people can see all the time. But when you're kind of going through this phase where you're building buzz, you're building your list, I wouldn't have the course there like just from day one unless you have a type of funnel after. Because if someone comes to the site and they haven't really seen any of the other content or your emails, they might just like see it and then not come back. You know what I mean? Or there's no like they haven't
interesting.
really kind of had the buzz built. And then also if there's no time scarcity, like genuine time scarcity, it's just like people know it's there so they can come at any time. So that's what I would say as far as like when you're approaching this. But as far as if you mean like day one, like rather than waiting until day 2 or 3, um, for sure, all I would say is like when you're going through this free section where you're building buzz, at least have one day before you launch that says like, look out for an email tomorrow. Like just to kind of have a teaser so they're like expecting something from you.
Right. And so how do I'm tacking on to this, but how does this play into like pre-sale pages and stuff? Are you really packing all of that into this time? Because I know even just before the pandemic, the whole thing in Course Creator was like, get a pre-sale page right away, pre-sale it, get it out there. Is that are we negating this, or this works in tandem with that?
No, this can work in tandem. In fact, so depending on, so when you say pre-sale, if you are referring to like, I'm going to create a sales page that people can buy without actually having the content yet, there's a launch date that's later on. It's the same thing, right? But you have that buzz builder, but then what you're launching is this is a pre-sale. That's like the product or offering. Because if you go in right from day one and say like you'll probably get people to buy, but if you just go in and say, hey, like give me money for this product and they've never heard of you before, it's your conversion rate is just going to be so much lower than if you really took the time to build that trust, to develop some type of relationship with your audience and got them to some type of win or an outcome before you ask them for money. I'm always going to be an advocate of that. It's
Yeah.
from like a conversion perspective. It's like we need to show people why they should trust us.
And so just to clarify, even if you do a pre-sale, you run an 8-day strategy for the pre-sale, close the pre-sale. Whenever else you launch, you run another 8-day strategy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
And you can
Love
like
it.
automate this. And again, you can have products that are available all the time. They can be lower price points. But like if you go in on your website and you have a $500 product all the time, I mean, maybe you are an amazing copywriter. Maybe you're Kendrick Shope and you followed her sales
Right.
page workshop and courses. But it's like, would you, not you, but like everyone listening, like, would you buy something for $500 if you've never seen the content before? It's just that kind of mindset.
Yeah, love it. Um, David is asking, I think, a really critical question for a lot of people, which is, would this work for business to business digital service with a monthly reoccurring fees instead of a course? I know we focus a lot on like individual customers, but are these systems, is the starter pack valuable for people who are interested to selling to businesses as well?
100%. I'm actually talking to my partner about this in his industry. I'm like, does anyone do like email marketing? He's like, no. I was like, oh, honey, we're gonna start this. But it's like, really, it's like, people are people. When you're selling to a business, you're selling to a person still.
Hmm.
There's a decision maker. And so you obviously, when you're framing, you're not gonna write as like personally like you're talking to a friend. But you're still selling to a person. You still need to prove like why your digital service or product is the right decision for them. And going through a workshop or a live class or whatever that is, the exact same thing. But yeah, there's a lot of one of my favorite things is to look at industries that aren't implementing this and being like, how do we get in early? There's some opportunities here.
Well, and you do change the language a little bit, right? If
Yes.
you're targeting, okay,
Exactly. So you're
yeah,
not saying like, like, hey friend, so great. Like you're not really building a personal brand. Like, of course, it's going to be more speaking to that profession, speaking to the outcome that the business is looking to achieve rather than that person. So of course the language will change, but you still would find that when you're doing the social listening and the audience research of, what is the appropriate way to describe this pain point for the person that I'm targeting.
love it. Cool, we're gonna just keep going here. Haran was also asking, and I'm not 100% sure, but I'm gonna assume this is about like questions being answered in the starter pack. There is a community, there is a place where these questions are being answered if you have them when you're in the starter pack community, right?
Exactly. Yeah, there's a whole community. And again, you're gonna be a founding student or a founding member. So if you get in early, you're gonna get a lot of questions answered.
Right.
And yeah, for sure, for sure.
Love it. And I think this is the last question we have time for at the moment, but it is such a wonderful question. And thank you, Iwa, for giving it so we can wrap up. I'm ahead of myself if I have nothing other than a passion and a vague idea. I don't even have a website yet. So if you're someone who knows you're unhappy with the place you're at, and you want to have your own business, you want to have this, but you don't quite have the clarity on what you want to do yet. Is the starter pack still good for you? Is it too much to take on? Like, is there a little work that someone needs to do before they take advantage of this?
For sure. Yeah, I'll be completely transparent. One, I love that you have this passion and a vague idea because like that's one of the most exciting places to be because it's like the sky is the limit with what you can create and all these things come in. What I would say is yes, 100%. Because like, especially if you start through like going through Chris Ducker's workshop and like the branding exercises, you have access to all these different courses. So it's not like one course where you have to go through everything. We broke it up so that like if today you're like, I want to work on email marketing, you can watch that course. And then
Nice.
you can take a break and you're like, I actually only have an hour. So I'm actually going to go in and learn about social listening. There's ways that you can kind of break this up. But what I would say is well, one, also it's an accessible price point. So, you can learn this without having to spend thousands of dollars to do this. But there is work involved. So I would say if you have a vague idea and maybe it's like you don't really care if you launch it, like it's kind of like, it would be fun. And some people are like that. That's totally fine. It's probably not going to be the right fit just because you're not going to see results from it. But if you have like that desire, that drive to like really start to implement things in like very like bite-sized chunks, you're kind of committing yourself to doing this, you can do it, then I'd say 100%. But there's also a 30-day refund policy. So if for whatever reason in 30 days, you're like, I haven't even watched a single video, I realize I don't want to do this, you can just let us know and we'll give you a
Yeah.
refund.
Well, it seems like at the very least, if you got it for a year, you could learn all of this and start a business consulting for other people teaching.
Yeah, you know what?
It's so much
That's
value
so
there.
funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do think that.
um, well, we do have to wrap up for time, but Jess, thank you so much for your time. And for everyone who's hung out and been watching and engaging and asking questions, thank you for being here. I hope you learned as much as I did. I was taking notes the whole time. And, and for everyone watching the replay as well, please hop in the comments and let us know what you learned, or if you have any questions. We do come back and answer those questions, and we love to see what you're thinking. And if you got into the starter pack, come back and let us know how it's going. We love to know that too. And if you had a good time today, please like and subscribe to the Discovered channel. We're continuing to bring folks like Jess out here to share their expertise and help us all grow our own businesses, solve our problems, right? And grow as people. And before we wrap up, Jess, I just wanted to ask one more brief question, which is a little more personally to you, but you're someone who's synthesized all this information. I still think at the end of the day, so much of this comes down to that procrastination, or that point that when you wake up the next day, what are you going to do to move the needle forward? Do you have any advice on whether you get into the starter pack and you have that accountability or you don't? Tomorrow, when someone wakes up, what can they do to keep that moving forward?
Oh, I have so much advice, but that's because I'm like, I've learned things the hard way and I've seen people do things. Like there's so much, and I'm not going to say like do a strategy or like start this. I think really, um, the one thing I would leave you with is give yourself a chance to give yourself a chance.
Mm,
You know what I mean? Like, I think that a lot of the times we stop ourselves before even considering if we're going to at least try it. We're like, it doesn't even like, we don't even get there. And to think like, there's so many creators that we work with that like they almost didn't launch because they're like, people aren't going to want this. No one's going to pay money for this. No one wants to hear me say this. I'm not, my English isn't good enough, or, I don't have like this confidence or charisma on video or whatever that is. Like we create this narrative of what we think people expect that doesn't exist.
mhm.
And like, just do not underestimate the impact that you could have for at least giving yourself a chance to do this.
I love that. What a wonderful way to wrap up. Everyone, hop in the chat. Thank Jess for her time. And the links, as like I said, they're in the comments and the descriptions and will be emailed to you. So become a founding member of that starter pack and get it going. And Jess, I hope we see you again. This was awesome. And thank you, everyone, for joining us. We'll see you all soon.
Thank you. This was fun. Thanks, guys. I will see you in the chat.